Goldman said they're Marylanders. So
I think I do know them.
Okay, exciting. All right, if you have not muted, you should be muted, except for Rabbi Fishbech and me at the moment. You all know me. I'm Carol Weinshell from Congregation Rodeph Sholom in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Tonight is night 5. And as promised, I'm not going to make you stay in cold weather all the time. I had to promise Rabbi Eisenberg that. So we are going to go to St. Thomas, Virgin Islands. And just as a very quick intro, I have a very fond closeness to St. Thomas. My mom's brother lived there for some 30 years. The synagogue is incredible. He was a very important person in the synagogue to keep it going. And every time we visited, it was a must that we went. It's spiritual, it's beautiful. The people are warm and welcoming, and it's like nothing you probably have ever seen before. And so I had to invite Rabbi Michael Fishbech to share something with you that I saw when I was in St. Thomas. Rabbi, the world is yours.
Welcome, everyone. It is wonderful to be with you. I'm about to share the screen. And let me see if I can do this as a slideshow, which should make it even a little bit larger. Slideshow from the beginning. Okay. So can you see this?
Yes.
And can you hear me?
Yes.
Excellent. Okay. So welcome to Hanukkah Around the World, presented through Congregation Rodeph Sholom of Bridgeport, Connecticut. And welcome to tonight's session, Sand on the Floor, with the Hebrew Congregation of St. Thomas. I'm Rabbi Michael Fishbech. I moved here in 2017, 2 months before we were hit by a Category 10 hurricane. That is 2 Category 5s, Irma and Maria, within a couple of weeks of each other. But that is not where we are starting tonight. We are starting with the history. Many of the Jews in the United States, as you know, came to the United States through Ellis Island. Not everyone, by the way. That was only those passengers who were in steerage. If you actually had a ticket on a first or second class liner, you checked in elsewhere. But not all the Jews in the United States came from through New York. There is the whole story, which I hope you know, about Galveston, Texas. Now here's a picture of Galveston now, but from a Jewish point of view, we know it from the story that was told in the film West of Hester Street. There was a whole discussion about spreading Jews out throughout the United States instead of having them concentrated in New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey, and therefore a different point of entry. So some of the seeding for some of the Jewish communities in Denver or out west actually came through Galveston, which is not our story either. I want to say, welcome to paradise, or what's a nice Jewish community doing in a place like this? This is a picture of what island, anybody? This is not St. Thomas. This is the iconic picture from the Virgin Islands. This is a picture from St. John. Jews first settled in the Virgin Islands in 1655 when it was ruled by Denmark. They were mainly traders in sugarcane, rum, and molasses. One of the first Jews in the Virgin Islands was Gabriel Milan, whom King Christian of Denmark sent in 1664 to be governor, the first of 3 Jews who have served as governors. In 1685, Jews and Catholics were granted freedom of religion. 2 centuries later, in 1850, the island's Jewish population hit its peak, numbering 400 and making up half of the white community. For the history, you can read either the book, The Jewish Historical Development in the Virgin Islands, or Through the Sands of Time by Judah Cohen. You can see the pictures here. The first acts of Jewish communal presence, the first things you're supposed to do, a school, a mikveh, and a cemetery. The Savan Cemetery opened in 1750. There are gravestones in 7 different languages. The cemetery is largely full by the 1830s. And so this is the new cemetery. This is the Altona Cemetery, which still has a few spots in it, built in the 1830s. It is here pictured around 1900. Part of the damage from the hurricane was to both cemeteries, and we're slowly restoring parts of one of them. So for the next part of this story, to tell the story of our synagogue, we need to mention many different countries. I moved you to where I didn't want to go. Just for the moment, I'm going to minimize. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. Minimize the screen of here so you can see the slides. Do any of you remember from the early, let me see the next slide, the early days of Israel, the Altalena affair? Anybody know what this is a picture of and what this is about? In the very early days of Israel, 1947, 1948, before Israel was a state, each party really, when you joined a party, it was like for life. The party had a school, the party had a union, the party had a newspaper, the party had cemetery. The party also had a militia. And the Haganah emerges out of Ben-Gurion's Labor Party. There were other militias. And if you remember how desperate the early days of the state, how desperate they were for arms, and arms were smuggled in from Czechoslovakia. But in one instance, Ben-Gurion, after the state was declared, realized that one of the things that sovereignty meant was a monopoly on the use of power. And you can't have all these different militias running around. Irgun, headed by Begin, brought in a ship called the Altalena full of weapons. And believe me, they needed those weapons. And so Ben-Gurion's Haganah surrounded the Altalena and said, turn over the weapons, we have one army now. Begin refused. And Ben-Gurion did what some people resent him to this day, and other people say this is the only reason Israel managed to emerge as a state with a single army. He sunk the Altalena. Why is that a historical parallel? There is very near St. Kitts, the small island of St. Eustatius. And in the 1770s and early 1780s, the British suspected, correctly as it turned out, that this was a key point for the smuggling of weapons to the American rebels. In fact, it was such a key point, as I've learned more recently, that it's possible the American Revolution would not have succeeded without this. So from a self-interested British point of view, their invasion of St. Eustatius actually makes some military sense. And what they did, they kicked out all the Jews who were involved in the smuggling of weapons, all the Jews, some of whom were involved in the smuggling of weapons to the American rebels. So from there, some Jews went to Curacao, but eventually some Jews came to St. Thomas. And in 1796, our congregation was founded by 9 Sephardic families whose origins had been originally in St. Eustatius. But that wasn't their ultimate origin. Their family story goes back much earlier. The story really begins in 1492. Columbus sailed the ocean blue and Spain kicked out the Jews. Why 1492? If we had more time, I'd go into this in much more detail, but basically, that was the year of the Reconquest from the Christian point of view, when they finally unified Spain under Christian rule and had kicked out the Moorish Muslims who had been in Spain for hundreds of years. Isabella was said to be religiously devout, and that said that what happened next was an act of religious devotion. I doubt it, because look at what they said to the Jews. They said, you can leave with nothing. You can leave penniless. If you stay and you want to keep what you have to convert to Catholicism. They gave them this choice, partially because this strategy had worked in the past century. Many chose to remain, keep their possessions, convert, and practice Judaism in secret. And here's the thing. The crown and the church, therefore, did not get as much money from this move as they thought. So I think this was partially economic. But Monty Python was right. Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition. Whether it was about replenishing the treasury or actually, in fact, about religious purity, when the money grab failed, the crown and the church began enforcing the state religion. Thus began the persecution of the new Christians. And if you were caught practicing Judaism, you would be put to death. As a result of that, at least the legend says, those practicing Judaism in secret began to place sand on the floor in the places they came together to pray, muffling the sound of their footsteps so they would not be heard and caught. That is at least what 5 congregations in the world said was their reason for putting sand on the floor when they did so in the 1790s and early 1800s. 4 congregations in the Caribbean and 1 in Europe, in Amsterdam. Our congregation was founded in 1796. The first synagogue building on the island was constructed in 1803 and lost in a fire the following year. The partially rebuilt synagogue burned down again in 1806. The current property was purchased in 1813, and the original building on the site was used for 10 years. It did not burn down, so then they expanded it with a larger structure on the same spot on Synagogue Hill. And then came the fire of 1831. You can read about that fire and the Jewish community of St. Thomas at the time in a recent, fairly decent historical novel called Marriage of Opposites by Alice Hoffman, which focuses on the life of the single most famous family in the history of our congregation. Anyone know what that family name is? This is the story of Camille Pissarro and his family, the founder of French Impressionism. And here is a landscape of St. Thomas in a scene painted by Camille Pissarro. Born on St. Thomas, the book is actually fairly interesting, moderately accurate. The present building was dedicated in 1833. There is my parking spot. It's been there since 1833. The 3 items were saved from the fire in 1831 and brought back during the ceremonial dedication of the new building in 1833. The Ner Tamid and the 2 scrolls on the far right. Now, if you lift up the mantles, you will see, you can sort of tell from here. Not sure if I can enlarge this picture, probably not in a slideshow. The 8 seam here on the Torah scrolls, on the Sifrei Torah, are silver, not wood. So these are very heavy. Both of those scrolls, by the way, are from the 1600s. The one that is the penultimate on the right, that is the second to the right, is a kosher scroll, beautifully written and used by those who come to us for destination B'nai Mitzvah to this day. For part of our history, the exterior walls featured a construction style which matched much of the rest of the island. There's a picture of it in color. And you can see the interior. Painting and renovation in the 1990s restored a brighter look, and on our bicentennial celebration, we had a speaker whose name was Ruth Bader Ginsburg or something like that. Painting and renovation began in the 1990s, and now you can see what the inside looks like. This is set up with a chuppah. This is the exterior view. And here's a clear shot of the sand on the floor looking from the Torah reading table, which is original to the 1833 building. The ark is original. The benches are original. The pads that you sit on have been replaced. And the sand is actually freshwater sand, which is replaced every few years. This is a speaker. The oldest object in our building is actually not the speaker here, but the menorah. This is a gift to the congregation from the Paiwansky family, said to be from the year 1100. I will tell you that our custodian pulled me aside when I first came here and said, look, we don't have the receipt. So I'm not 100%, it's old. I don't know that it's actually from the year 1100. Several times during the year, including Kol Nidre, we light all the candles and use only that light. The background here is focused on the Baccarat crystal chandeliers. Other than the Torah scrolls, this is the most irreplaceable part of our building. This is why, even though we were founded as a Sephardic synagogue, we do not ululate during services. Ululate is the Iranian word for the tossing of candy, right? We don't throw candy with priceless, irreplaceable Baccarat crystal, even though that is a Sephardic custom. Here is a view with one of the Sifrei Torah out. Carol asked me if I would mention the hurricanes. This was immediately before Irma or Maria. We had to do this twice when we wrapped the Torah scrolls up in plastic. This is when we were halfway through in our preparation. Nobody saw the tropical storm on Kol Nidre that year coming. So when we did have damage to our Torah scrolls and we lost the mantles and moisture got into the ark, it was actually from that tropical storm immediately after. But the island is clearly still not recovered from Irma and Maria, never mind the pandemic. If we have 9 people at services, I suppose you could count the iguana in the minyan. And remember that we are Reformed, so we do not need to check whether the iguana is male or female. But there's the iguana on the Jewish star outside. A view of the closed gates. We are a place of pride, a place of community where many different faith traditions come together, a place of harmony, a place of coming together. This is when Representative Stacey Plaskett, who I think all of you may now know from the second impeachment hearings, was our speaker. 13 of the 14 senators in the Virgin Islands came that night, but the Martin Luther King service is when we honor one student from each high school, public and private, on St. Thomas and St. John, who best exemplifies the spirit of Martin Luther King. And we give 500. Last year, 2 years ago, we increased it to 1,000, but I don't know what we're doing this year. Scholarship to the award recipients. We've been doing this for close on to 35 years now. And that is a fairly well-attended service. I would urge you to visit us, feel this special place for yourselves, experience our history, and make our story a part of yours. I can stop the share, take questions, or do whatever you would like to at this point. And I think I stuck with my time frame, so that doesn't happen with a rabbi very often. Maybe your rabbi does, but I don't.
Well, I thought I knew a lot of the history, but I sure learned more tonight. Anybody have questions? If you do, if you raise your hand, I'll entertain. Jackie?
Yeah, I'm just curious, Rabbi, if you can tell us approximately how many Jews you have in St. Thomas, how many members in the synagogue, and are you finding the Jewish population staying the same, increasing, decreasing? How do you see things for the future?
When I came here, we had about 100 families who were members. My best guess is that there are, at any given time, probably 400 Jews on the island now. But there are so many Jewish visitors who come through on cruise ships and, in tourism, we don't know. I mean, I knew people at Washington Hebrew congregation who had houses on St. John. When I moved here, there were people who said, oh, I'll see you there. So there are many Jews who have connections here who are not full-time island residents. In terms of a Jewish presence, there's us, and there's since the mid 2000s, there's Chabad. I will say that when I was a rabbi at Temple Sholom in Chevy Chase, Maryland, Glenn, if you're there, at our height, at our peak, we had about 600 families. I would send something out by email, and who knows what would happen. But now we have 100 families on island, or fewer, many fewer since the hurricanes. I was going to rebuild a religious school here. We had 18 kids. I was used to 400 kids, but 15 of those 18 kids left the island after the hurricanes permanently. But we have 3,100 high members. That is for $36 a year or $450 lifetime. And we've really depended on the support for those high, 3,601, 3,602, 3,603, as I'm looking around now, I hope, if you'll, actually 3,100, right? So when I send something out by email, 3,200 families don't read it. You're muted. I see some of you laughing. I'm glad that somebody laughed at that, except that some of them do. When I go to conventions of the Reform movement, people come up and say, oh, I'm a member of your congregation. When I go to rabbinic conventions, colleagues come up and say, oh, I'm a member of your congregation. So, you know, it's really an intimate community, but with a worldwide reach. The problem has been that the flights have gotten less frequent. The prices have gotten much, much higher. So it's harder to get back and forth. We had 4 cruise ships in today. So that's starting to pick up again. We have a vaccine mandate for anybody who comes physically. We've had the people who have been most abusive and have shouted and screamed obscenities at us and threatened to put up the YouTube so it would put it up and film me, not letting them in. We're Israelis, of course. But most people have been, you know, cooperative, and the vaccination rate is not is amongst the, even though Puerto Rico has the highest under the US flag, we have one of the lowest here. And you know, so I spoke with a new family tonight. There are a couple of families that have come with teenagers recently. I just don't know. It would have, without the pandemic, people say it takes 5 to 8 years to recover from a major hurricane. And we were really devastated. So we might have been on our road to recovery, but then everybody got hit. So I'm neither optimistic nor pessimistic. All I can tell you is there's very few of us now, and we depend on, we're streaming services. We often have more people on. You're welcome to join us for services when, you know, when it doesn't conflict with yours. But we often have more people online than in the sanctuary now. And we depend on this worldwide community. The ironic thing I have learned here is that no one is an island, even though we're on an island.
Rabbi Eisenberg.
Yeah, I want to thank you, Rabbi, for your excellent presentation and for the work that you put into it. I don't want anybody to misunderstand this question, but you know, as we head towards a long, dark tunnel of winter, I was just wondering, could you use an assistant?
Absolutely.
I'm very happy. I'm very happy at Rodeph Sholom.
Because I sing with far more enthusiasm than talent. So what I really need here is anybody who can sing.
Nima, don't get any ideas.
You know, the one advantage, despite the low vaccination rate, the one advantage here is that year round, I mean, the synagogue building itself is like open to the outside for much, you know, when we have services. There's no air conditioning, so the doors are open and the fans are on and the windows are open. It's still hot. The restaurants, you know, when the vaccine started, my wife and I started to do some indoor dining, and we did a little bit in when we were on the mainland, and then things got difficult again and we stopped. We don't need to do indoor dining here. We can, you know, be outdoors. There are outdoor options almost everywhere. So, so yes, Rabbi Eisenberg, you are welcome to be not an assistant, but a, you know, colleague anytime you come.
I have a question. St. Croix has a synagogue? Is that
It does.
correct?
The because of everybody streaming, we've been able to do several things this year in cooperation with them. We did a joint Yom HaShoah service this year.
I was
By the
there.
way, that's an important part of our history. We told the very little known story as part of Yom HaShoah this year of how in the 1930s, late 1938 or 9 or even 1940, the legislature of the Virgin Islands passed and the governor signed an act which would have welcomed thousands of Jewish refugees from Europe, and the State Department vetoed it. Our synagogue and the one in St. Croix would have been much larger had that happened.
It was a fascinating program. I opted to go, and I really, I'm glad that I did.
Yeah, so that was our efforts with St. Croix. The St. Croix rabbi and I co-wrote a letter recently in response to a pro-Palestinian rally on St. Croix. Basically there's us, there's Chabad. There are some Jews on St. John who either go to Chabad or come to us, or mostly, hide. And then there's a 50 family congregation on St. Croix.
Okay.
Carol,
Lisa,
I have a question. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay, Sharon, go ahead.
Rabbi, the low vaccination rate, I shouldn't assume anything, but since you're part of the US, is it safe to assume that there is enough vaccine there for everyone, since everyone in the US has been told?
My 3 kids came to the island and got vaccines way before they could have on the mainland, because when we went in with my daughter, there'd been some bureaucratic mess up. I had gotten the vaccine on a Friday, and they called me in January, and they called me the following Monday and said, "You can come get your vaccine now." I said, but I got, wait, I've got an 18-year-old daughter. And they said, well, bring her in. This is way before an 18-year-old could have gotten it on the mainland. And when we were there, we heard the nurses say to each other, "We got 3 doses left and people have canceled appointment. Who do you know who can come in?" So the vaccine hesitancy is partly African-American, partly suspicion of government, partly like holistic method. Nobody's going to put any foreign stuff in my body. There's Rastafarians here, partly just simple idiocy. What there is not here, despite the fact that the impact on the low vaccine rates is the vaccine rate is very low, even though we don't have the idiotic, insane politicization of the right-wing Republican strand of opposition to the vaccines. We do have anti-science stuff, but we don't have Republican idiocy.
Right, so there's enough vaccine. The reason it's a low vaccine rate is more just hesitancy and people not getting the shots.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
That was my question.
That's another reason then.
Some of the islands nearby had to go through COVAX and get vaccines a different way.
So that's another reason to hop on the next plane and come and visit.
You're having trouble scheduling your booster? Just come on down.
Lisa, did you have a question? Okay. Anybody else? Judy?
Rabbi, how do you have services? Do you have them once a week? What does that look like in terms of what you're able to pull together for services?
We have them excellently. It's very challenging. We for a long time, we never, when I say we're the oldest synagogue building under the US flag in continuous use, we've never missed a service, but it hasn't always been in the building during the pandemic. We've gone online, as many other people have, from April of 2020 through May of 2021. We started going back cautiously. We have a vaccine requirement. When I was away in Hamden, Connecticut, last Friday night, we had one person leading, one person as an accompanist, and one person came to the service. and there were 12 people on Zoom. For Yom Kippur morning, we had 20 people in the sanctuary and 98 on Zoom. There have been times when we've had hundreds on Zoom. For a long time, I was doing a Shabbat morning service that was a half hour or 40-minute long service, and then Torah study. Right at the moment, we've shifted to just Torah study, even though I missed the Shabbat morning service. I will say about Shabbat morning, I mean, in Maryland, I was used to, I mean, Glenn may remember this, but we could have up to 4 services on a Shabbat morning in my former congregation. If there was a bar mitzvah upstairs, we'd have a simultaneous service downstairs that was Torah study that had about 35 people at it. That's what I was used to. We only had 4 or 5 people coming in person here anyway. I was experimenting. I was doing things in our back porch, which overlooks Megan's Bay. I was doing things in people's homes. Sometimes we did just Torah study. So when we went online and we were getting, 18 people on a Shabbat morning from all over the world, including one guy in Australia who was like, he's done Havdalah already, right? It's Australia, we were getting people from all over the world on Shabbat morning. So we've stayed mostly online for Shabbat morning. We do have visiting B'nai Mitzvah, and we have them any day of the week because, on a cruise ship, any day is market day, right? Monday and Thursday are days where Torah is read because it was market day in Babylonia. We don't live in Babylonia. We can use a different standard. We have the visiting B'nai Mitzvah. We are having services in person, and I expect we'll have, I'm guessing 40 or so people tomorrow night, and I don't know how many online, but one last week, it's like, we shouldn't have done it. I mean, what a waste of effort, right? We're paying the person to stream. We're paying the accompanist. How do So my wife said it's because I wasn't there. I don't know if that's why, because maybe nobody else was there. It's challenging. We have no air conditioning. There's no parking nearby. It's a challenge to get to. So the problem with streaming is, are people on island going to come back, or is it just too convenient to sit in your pajamas and just participate in services and wander off whenever you want to? So who knows what community is going to look like, but that's not just us. That's everybody is facing this. Right, Kenner? Right, Rabbi?
We certainly talk about that.
Look at the great program that you've put together with Hanukkah from around the world, from everybody, from all of, you couldn't have done this before Zoom. The opportunities are amazing, and the risks to face-to-face community are also very high.
You're very nice. Thank you. Okay.
That was very diplomatic.
Well, you were wonderful, just terrific. I think you can tell by the smiles on everybody's faces. So I want to do a little business first. I need to ask Billy and Phyllis if you need to say Kaddish. Okay, so who's going to lead that? Rabbi, Nima, Billy?
Yeah, I'm happy to lead it. And then
Okay.
a few others. Brian, I think, wants to, and there might be a few others.
I
Judy,
do.
you had your hand up? Okay, so if you're saying Kaddish, unmute yourselves, if you please. And those who are saying Kaddish, we'll invite you to stand up. Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shnei Rabba, Yalma, Dibra, Yamlich, Malte, Chayakon, Yomikon, the full Beit Israel, Biru Amen. Yehei Shmei Rabban Barach Yitvarach Yishtabach Yitvar Yitramam Yitnasteh Yidhadar Yitmalev Yidhalal Shnei B'Lisha Barichu Elam Kol Birchata V'Shirata Tushbechata, Nechemata, Damiran Bialma, Ru Amen.
Amen.
Yehi Shlama Rama Nishmaya. V'chaim Aleinu V'yavol Yisrael. Ru Amen.
Amen.
Oseh Shalom B'Yamav. Ru Yaseh Shalom. Ru Amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Rabbi. Nima, would you honor us with lighting the candles?
Is Rabbi going, Rabbi, were you planning on?
Oh, you want me to get my guitar?
Oh, yeah, please. Okay, so if you if you want to light candles,
I just want to show Rabbi Fishbech that conservative rabbis also can play guitar and bring music into liturgy.
You're hired. Come visit.
It's not only Reform Judaism that has a lock on this. Just saying.
I'm sold. You're hired. I haven't even heard you yet, but I want you.
No, you
Okay.
can't have him. You can't have him.
Okay, we're going to light our candles. And
Okay.
anyone who wants to join us in the lighting of the candles are invited to stand and light with us. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu le'adlik nerei shel Chanukah. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'asa nisim b'aleinu bayamim ha'areim ba'azman hazeh ma'asur yeshuati lechana Tefilati, Isham Kodam Samecha, Ze'edahim Mateya, Yitzor Amnameya, Azekmor Beshir Mizmor, Chanukah Mizbeya, Azekmor Beshir Mizmor, Chanukah Mizbeya, Rock of Ages, let our song praise thy saving power. Thou amidst the raging storm, watch thy sheltering tower. Yours they unsailed on thine own Havela, and thy word broke their sword when our own strength failed us, and thy word broke their sword when our own strength failed us. Happy Hanukkah, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi. To
Did Naima
answer,
have anything? Sorry, Carol. Did Naima have anything that you wanted to do, or are we good? I think she's good.
she's muted.
Okay.
I have to say that without Nima recording and transferring, we would never have links to these programs. She's been doing it. She's been making them so they are terrific. They're linkable. They will be on our website. Rabbi Fishbech, I will send it to you when I get it from Nima. She works incredible magic. So yes, there will be recordings. Hopefully there won't be any glitches with Zoom. And before our program ends, we have the business at hand. no drum roll, but our president, Debbie Bowles, is going to draw the raffle for the big $10 Target gift card.
Thank you so much, and thank you,
Drum roll.
Rabbi Fishbech. And we, oh, I don't like when you put me on this big screen.
I didn't do
And,
it. Nina did it.
Wow. Peace, love,
And what, and what we're going to do is Rabbi Carol is going to give any of us who are online the website, your website, so we can look more into your synagogue. And if anybody chooses to privately make a donation, we really want to thank you. And the synagogue will also make a donation
Thank
to
you
your
very
synagogue.
much.
So
We need it. We really do, unfortunately. Thank you so much.
you're welcome and thank you. So now for our raffle drawing that we do every night. So I turn my head
Sitting
away.
on the edge of my seat, Debbie.
You're in there, Rabbi.
Don't
You're in
fall
there.
off.
Yeah, as if he's the Target shopper in the family.
But Judy's in there too. So, Nima Hirsch.
Oh, yay!
Hey, the game is rigged.
Cantor Hirsch.
Woohoo!
And
Cantor
you're
Hirsch.
in there too, but tonight, I guess Nima won.
I guess
Excellent.
Can Yoram use for half of it?
That's your decision.
That's all, it goes a long
the
way.
likelihood of that is very small.
Right. What can you buy for $5?
Well, there's always a baby to shop
Maybe
for.
gum. You could probably buy some gum for $5.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow night we are going to Hungary with Larry Shire and Edith Winnick. We're going to take a side trip to Poland with Lisa Rappaport, and she also has a couple of special pictures thanks to her son Daniel, who is in Israel.
If it's going to be Hungarian.
And then Saturday night, Debbie Scheinman is taking us to India, and we're rounding out the Hanukkah holiday with David Pettigrew, a colleague of Deb Weiss's at Yale, will be in Sarajevo. When we're all finished with Hanukkah, next Wednesday for Coffee and Conversation at 10 o'clock, back by popular demand, Irving Glazer has agreed to come and speak again and finish telling us more of his story of World War II landing on Utah Beach on D-Day. And I will tell you that even though he claims he is no hero, he is typical of the World War II generation. Not one of them thought they were a hero. And that's one of the reasons they're called the greatest generation. So I look forward to seeing you tomorrow, Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday. And thank you again, Rabbi Fishbech. You'll be hearing from me.
Carol, 4 o'clock,
Carol?
tomorrow, right? Not 7?
Right,
Oh,
mention the
tomorrow,
time
Nima,
change.
4 o'clock tomorrow, Nima? Is that 4 fingers? 4 o'clock.
Yes,
Yeah.
4 o'clock tomorrow. That's correct.
Thank
4
you.
o'clock, everybody.
It's a team effort.
Yeah, Carol, what I'm wondering is, tomorrow, do we start with the program or do we start with the lighting? Because we have a deadline with the lighting.
Lighting,
Lighting first and then the program and then
Yes.
come up. Perfect.
yes, yes.
That way Larry can talk as long as he wants.
Oh, Larry.
Hey.
If you
I'm
hear
actually
that-
sharing it. I'm actually sharing it with a couple other people, but yes, I'm going to try to limit myself to 10 minutes and I promise to keep it non-political.
Okay, Larry. I'm
And
gonna
Larry,
hold-
you were in the bucket. I knew you were worried, Larry. Now you changed your name to Larry instead of a phone number because you were worried the first night. I
No,
didn't know
this
who
is
you
because
were.
I'm on a different computer.
Ah.
I figured you would recognize me regardless whether it was phone number or not.
Debbie, did you have
Yeah.
aging hippies in there as aging hippies?
I did. It was
We have
easier.
a
love that.
Hungarian over here.
What? Oh,
Over here,
really?
Hungarian. My husband.
Okay, you're going to come on tomorrow night, right, Yoram? So you can add,
All depends.
if you're cooking dinner.
No, it's some work-related issues.
Oh, no.
He's not sure he can be home at 4.
Oh,
Well, but Cantor Hirsch is taping it, so it's all good. He can watch it after.
Is it gonna be in Hungarian tomorrow night?
Oh,
I hope not, because some of us won't understand.
Oh, Istenem.
When I saw aging hippies, when I saw aging hippies, I thought it was Billy Rappaport. In his, in his, in his magic bus, in his psychedelic magic bus.
He outgrew his hippiedom. That's the only reason I married
Oh,
him.
okay.
I'm stealing that though. I have a big meeting tomorrow and I'm going to change my name from Judith Eisenberg, she, her, hers, to Aging Hippie.
Yeah.
That's it.
Okay, so if you want information about the St. Thomas Synagogue, I will have it. Just email me.
Debbie, I think we should take a synagogue trip.
I can
St.
arrange
Thomas.
that.
Oh, that would be wonderful. And it's a lot shorter than flying to Israel.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
And Rabbi, what about a cruise? What do you think, a cruise, Rabbi, when it gets safer? A cruise to St. Thomas.
Oh,
Oh, I'm all in. You don't have to say, you don't have to convince me about a cruise.
I'll run that trip.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
It would be
Okay.
a lot of fun.
It
With
would
Rodeph
be.
Sholom t-shirts. Aging Hippies of Rodeph Sholom.
Yeah.
There you have it, Judy.
I can't get past the Aging Hippie. I'm just really taken to that.
I hope you've all had a good time. I sure
Yes.
have.
Yeah.
Thank you all for coming and
Thank
Okay,
staying.
thanks, Carol.
Thank you.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Judy, Kathleen,
Good
thank
night.
you for coming.
We'll see you all tomorrow. Take care.
Okay, I'm
Okay.
sorry, I forgot.
Well, there'll be a recording you can watch, Dottie.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just forgot and I turned in late.
That's okay.
Is there shul tomorrow night?
No,
No,
it's all on Zoom.
it's all on Zoom and it's
How many-
4:00.
Yes.
Will there be on Zoom at 6:00?
No, it's just gonna go straight through.
Just straight through. Okay, wonderful. 'Cause-
Okay,
All
All
right,
right.
thank you so much. Thank
Okay.
you.
okay, good night.
All right, good night.
Everyone.